Good morning. I want to welcome you all to the second session today of the MEC annual meeting. It's a wonderful pleasure to welcome you here on such a beautiful day. I jokingly told our board yesterday at our meeting, I said, now as the state chamber, I refuse to take credit for any weather because I can't control the whole part of the state. So when weather's bad in Jackson, I blame Dwayne O'Neill at the Jackson Chamber. So I got to give him credit for a beautiful day today. So if you see Dwayne, thank him for providing a great day for us here in Jackson for the MEC annual meeting. We're really excited about this morning's panel for a variety of reasons. One is we have some really talented people who are sitting on the stage with us who understand why workforce development is so important. And they've done it in a way that they're able to talk about success. And I think oftentimes in Mississippi, it's real easy to talk about what we need to do. One of the things that I think we need to do a better job of is celebrating some of those successes. And really and truly, there are lots of them. Y'all hear the clapping behind me. That's our Star Student program that's taking place. Over 300 Star students, the largest group we've ever had. Very bright, talented individuals that are graduating from high school in just a couple of months. That's going to be our future workforce. So when we get into workforce, we want to talk about things that are going to matter, things that are going to make a difference, and more importantly, jobs that are available and how we fill them. We've got a wonderful panel this morning. With us is Amy Tate. She is Valley Relations for the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA. She is also the chair of a newly formed group called the Skills Foundation, which is designed really to focus on skill issues. Also, Denny Terrell, who is the president of Ivy Mechanical based in Kosciuszko, and really workforce is one of the key driving factors that Denny has to deal with on a day in and day out basis, because as they do business all over the country, making sure you have a quality workforce that's ready to go to work when the job becomes available is extremely important. And then Edmund Hughes on the end is the Vice President of Human Resources and Administration with Ingalls Shipbuilding, the company that is constantly growing and adding employees and having to have a quality, skilled workforce to do the job. So if y'all would, let's a quick welcome to all of our panelists this morning. Thank y'all so much for being part of it. And Edmund, I want to start with you because they're here to hear about things that are happening that are making a difference. And I know at Ingalls in particular, y'all have some of the finest training and some of the most comprehensive approaches to it of anybody that I'm aware of. Can you just kind of give us a little overview to begin with of kind of some of the things that y'all are doing and how it all meshes to get the type of employee that you need? Okay.
So to start, I think it's very important to mention Ingalls Shipbuilding, we have about 11,500 employees in Pascagoula, Mississippi. We build 4 different classes of ships for the Navy and the Coast Guard, and currently there are 11 different ships in various stages of construction. Last year was an extremely light year. We hired 1,930 employees. That was a light year. If you average it out over the past 3 to 5 years, the number's probably been around 2,700 employees per year. So from a workforce development standpoint, if I wait until we post an ad for an electrician to start our recruiting process, I will never catch up, ever. So we really have to think about workforce development from a really holistic standpoint, and it doesn't start when that job is posted. It starts when the kids are in middle school. And I know some of you are looking at me thinking, no, not really. Well, it really does. Because if individuals don't get those skills in math and in science early, then they may not be prepared for the kinds of work that we do. So we actually spend a lot of time with STEM-related programs. We give STEM grants to high schools, robotic schools, elementary schools, to get individuals interested in those areas. The other part of it is we, on a regular basis, have engineering weeks and get middle school students in. We participate in programs like Pathways to Possibilities that they bring in 8th grade students on the 6 coastal counties, allowing them to look at a lot of different areas, but we focus on that manufacturing track for 8th grade students. If they're high school students in their career vocational programs want to come to the shipyard, we give overviews of Ingalls Shipbuilding, who we are, what we do, how much you can make, because that's always their first question. And students, you ask them how much they want to make, they say, I want to make $1 million, and you say, what are you going to do legally to make $1 million? But we bring the students in from a high school age and talk to them about careers and jobs. Well, we actually talk about careers. We say we don't really want to talk to you about a job. We want to talk to you about a career at Ingalls Shipbuilding. But we bring those students in to let them understand what we do. We'll introduce them to our apprentice program, and they'll talk to our manager of talent acquisition. And he spends time talking to them about what is the easiest way you think you can lose your job at any company you ever go to: not showing up at work. So we want to have those conversations with students very early. One of the programs that I'm extremely proud of is this. 2 years ago, we started a shipbuilding academy. So think of your career vocational, diesel mechanic, culinary programs. We started one up in shipbuilding. So now we have students who, if they're interested in a career in shipbuilding, when they're in high school, they come out to the shipyard. Our instructors actually teach the courses. They can get credit for these courses. They can actually get some college credit for the courses. But that's probably one of the programs that I'm most proud of, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how many students can we have in that type of program? Now, the cornerstone of our workforce development strategy is our apprentice program. Currently, we have 734 apprentices in 15 different trades. Those programs are anywhere from 2 to 4 years in length. This year, we'll probably add another 230 or so apprentices, so the program will be about 900 students. That is the primary kind of workforce development program that we have. But that just gives you some idea of what we do at Ingalls Shipbuilding.
I want to talk, just to get you to expand for just a minute on the apprenticeship program, if you would. And the reason is, y'all have been kind enough to ask me to come down on several occasions to be part of a graduation for the apprentice class. Folks, let me tell you, they do it right. They celebrate the success that these men and women have achieved in their effort through the apprenticeship process. But it's also a very difficult program to get into. If I recall, it's harder to get into the Ingalls apprenticeship program in terms of the percentage of folks accepted than it is to Harvard.
So last year we had, I believe, 200, I'll say anywhere from 250 to 290 individuals who are actually accepted into the apprentice program. We probably had about 7,000 applications for those 250 spots. So I think that's roughly 3% if I'm doing back of the envelope HR math in my head. But it's a very competitive program, and you have individuals that I was talking to some students at the last graduation and just asked them, what were you doing before you decided to come to Ingalls? One individual was a bartender. One individual worked as a concierge in DC area. One kid was straight out of high school. So, we will, if individuals have a desire to learn, the requisite skills, willing to work, we're willing to invest and make them shipbuilders. Now, the other important piece of it is the journeyman craftsperson in our organization. The base wage is about $26 an hour. So it's a pretty well-paying job.
You also have to be looking for employees at all times, but part of that becomes the ability to create partnerships to create skills. I know y'all have been working very closely in Kosciuszko with your community college there to develop this process. Can you tell a little bit about what you're doing and what the successes have been with that?
Sure. Real quick, Ivy Mechanical is a mechanical construction company, and we're headquartered in Kosciuszko. We have an office in Jackson, but we have 10 offices across the southeast. So we've got right around 1,000 employees, and about 90% of our work is outside of Mississippi, but about 250 of those 1,000 employees are from Mississippi and primarily from Kosciuszko, Attala County. So, one of our challenges is our projects move. Where we need the people moves, and in our history, if we had a $20 million mechanical hospital somewhere, we would send our superintendents and their core group, and then we would hire locally wherever those jobs were, and to fill the need. And now the need's not there. It's not anywhere out there. So there's two things that we've done as a company over the last 5 or 10 years to kind of combat that. And one is do more prefabrication. So prefabrication means that we assemble more pieces together before we go to the job site. So we have fabrication shops in Kosciuszko for all the trades. And we've eliminated over 50% of what field labor is or used to be in the field, and now we do that in Mississippi, and we ship it out all over the southeast. So we've eliminated a lot of the need for that skilled labor out there by doing that. Another thing we've done is we've added a lot of swing crews. So what we call a swing crew is it may be a sheet metal or a piping or plumbing crew, 5 to 7 people. I think we're around 22 or 23 of those right now, and they make up about 150 people. And we send them out from Kosciuszko to wherever the projects are. We've got about 8 or 10 of those crews in Asheville, North Carolina right now on a mission hospital project. Boy, I'm sorry. So that's kind of the two things that we're doing now. So one of the ways we continue to promote and train and get our apprentices going through the apprenticeship programs into journeyman levels is we partnership with Holmes Community College and the Tala Wind Job Center. And so what we're doing there is Holmes provides the facility and the instructor, and then everything's facilitated through the Wind Center. And Ivy's agrees to employ the students at the time the class starts. So we'll employ them, give them full benefits. They'll go through an Ivy orientation the first morning, and they'll go through a 10-week class. And after that 10-week class, they'll be approved as level 1 apprentices in whatever trade it is. So we did one of those. I think we finished one in August. It was a plumbing. We had 11 in the class. When it started, we had 11 that finished. Some of them went to swing crews, and some of them went to our plumbing prefab shop in Kosciuszko. And today we still have 9 of those working. The other 2 had, I think, some law issues. It wasn't because they really wanted to leave. But 9 out of 11, when we were running programs like this on our own, we would be lucky when the class ended to have half of them. So it's a really good partnership. Holmes and the Wind Center through the Department of Education, they really know what they're doing. So we're actually in a 3rd week of a class another plumbing class right now. So that seems to be working really well for us.
But that's a key part. The retention process is got to be a vital part of what y'all are able to do in terms of planning, running your company, knowing that you've got the workforce you need. So, I mean, obviously, can you talk a little bit about why getting those folks trained is one step, but then keeping those folks on the job is a big part of that process as well to be successful, right?
It is, and one of the things we do, we continue training. I think 4 cents for every man hour goes towards training that we'll spend every year, so about $500,000 goes just purely to training. We've got 13 certified instructors that continue the training, that'll move them whatever levels they are as apprentices all the way till they're journeymen, and we give salary increases and bonuses every time they hit a level to keep them pushing through and doing those kind of things for retention, and it definitely helps.
Now, Amy, you just took over the role of chair of the fairly newly formed Skills Foundation. Tell us a little bit about what the Skills Foundation is and what it was created to do.
Well, we're going to find jobs for Denny and Edmond. So, no, we are a new organization, and as you know, if you've heard this morning, Mississippi and the U.S. there's a deficit of skilled workers. So the Skills Foundation was formed to increase awareness that there are gaps for those type of workers, and to help get the word out to fill those gaps. Right now, 7 out of 10 available jobs in the U.S. are skilled trades. That's about 40,000 jobs in Mississippi and almost 6 million across the U.S. So we want to work with existing networks. MEC is a great example of that with Mississippi Scholars and Tech Masters. There are already some great networks in place to reach students and to reach these workers. So by not reinventing the wheel and capitalizing on that, we can get our message out faster, we can drive results, and most importantly, we can measure that. Our board likes to say demand-driven education for jobs that actually exist.
Well, and first of all, thank you for taking on the role of chair of this organization. It's going to be vitally important to see all this come together because you also have a real job.
Yeah.
And that's with TVA. So you kind of get to see it from two perspectives. What are some of the things in your position at TVA that would help you kind of look at what some of the challenges that we face and how do we turn those challenges into opportunities?
Well, in North Mississippi, where I live and work, there are already some really great examples. We're getting a lot right. We just need more people funneling into those jobs to get those numbers up. And our competitiveness as a state truly depends on how we develop this workforce. Generally, our challenges are the same as other states. We just need more of these type middle skills or technical skills put in the pipeline. 30 years ago, the skilled trades, they worked with their their hands or tools. And I think there's been some misconceptions and some stigmatization around those types of jobs. They aren't that way anymore. These folks are running computers on the floor. All these systems are automated, and these jobs are paying very good money. So I think the Skills Foundation, if we can lean into all this messaging that tells people you can go get some training, and sometimes some pretty quick training to get into these jobs that will not only pay you a good wage, but you have the ability to climb the ladder.
And Edmund, while your primary focus today is building ships, you have a background in manufacturing in a variety of areas. Amy mentioned the fact just now that 7 out of 10 jobs fit that category. What do you see in the workplace today in terms of what the needs are, and then how do we continue to build on that as we go forward, not only in your industry but other industries when we're looking at the state as a whole?
I think one of the important items that we have to look at is, as you said, most of our jobs are those craft-related jobs. If we have 11,500 employees, over 7,000 of those individuals are craft, but we also have a doctor, we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have buyers, we have photographers, we have event planners, we have subcontract administrators. So you really need that total gamut. So I need those individuals who truly do want to work with their hands on a daily basis, and you will work in the elements, and sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. But I also need the pipeline from the colleges and the universities around the state to supply our engineers, HR professionals, lawyers. So we really need a combination of all of those things working across the state. So it's important for us not only to work with the community colleges, and we have extremely strong relationships with the community colleges to bring in the craft workforce, but we also need those same relationships with the universities as we're looking at the rest of the professionals within our organization. I think the opportunities to take internships and go in and to see a company is extremely helpful. If I look back over kind of the history of the state, when I graduated from college, there was no Nissan, there was no Toyota, so I went to Indiana to work for General Motors. Well, now those opportunities exist in the state. And so what are those opportunities to get our students in Mississippi to stay in Mississippi, because there are opportunities within our state. And I think it's important that we, as business businesses assist and get to the colleges, get to the universities, and help those students understand what truly is available within Mississippi.
And I think that's one of the things that stands out to us as we've looked at this and we've talked about the post-secondary portion of this. If you look at the statistics, they're saying that in Mississippi we're going to need about 58 to 60% of our jobs by 2020 are going to be in that category of job that's going to require some type of post-secondary education. But it's not just a four-year college
Right.
degree. It could be industry credentials. It could be an associate degree. So again, I guess that from your perspective, as we look at that, getting that training early, I guess, is a big part of it. And going back to what you talked about, the pathways for possibilities that y'all are involved in is one of the ways to do it. Do you think those are the kinds of things that are getting people to understand why we're, what's out there, the type of education they're going to need, and getting them into that? And then if you would just explain just a little bit more to the audience about what Pathways is so they can get an understanding of what y'all do with that.
So Pathways to Possibilities is a program for 8th grade students. If you look at the 6 counties in lower Mississippi, they'll bring in 8th grade students to the Coliseum, and they'll talk about all different types of careers. So you have a lot of companies that assist in that. So there'll be a track in manufacturing, there'll be a track in healthcare, there'll be a track in construction-related items, there'll be a track within, you want to be a public servant, firefighter, or something of that nature. You want to work in the hospitality industry. So they bring in these 8th grade students and they spend a period of time there and get to go to these, in many cases, hands-on demonstrations of what are the different career tracks that I can take on as an individual. And you do that in the 8th grade so that those students have the opportunity to decide if I truly want to go into manufacturing, construction, these are the kinds of classes that I need to take in high school. If I want to go into the hospitality, here's some things that I can do. If I want to be an engineer and I don't like mathematics, I may have a problem. So Pathways of Possibilities gives students that opportunity to really spend some time with hands-on demonstrations to start thinking about their career. If individuals take that opportunity to think about it in the 8th grade, you have 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th to do something about it. If in the 8th grade they decide that they're not going to do it, then we need to assist them a little bit more. But that 8th grade year, I think, is extremely important to individuals to decide, do I want to go do something that may require me to work with my hands, or do I want to take that university track? But the other part is explaining to them that if you truly want to work with your hands, there are jobs that you can make a pretty good living with, which may also provide you a career track. So when we get students to come in and they ask us, well, how much can I make? Well, a journeyman makes X. His boss probably makes 10,000 more. His boss makes 10,000. His boss. So if you come in as a journeyman, there is a career path that leads to that number they love to quote, which is, I want to make 6 figures. Every student that comes through says, I want to make 6 figures. My first question is, when do you want to make it? And what do you want to do? You're not going to make it the year after you finish the community college. It's just not going to happen. But if you're willing to put in some more years, some more time, and some potential education, those opportunities are present here in your state, and you can make the kind of money that you've just talked about you wanted to make. But it requires an investment of your time to do it.
Denny, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but you talked about part of what you have to do. I guess I'll call it a work-ready workforce. In other words, people ready to go when the job's there, having the crew, having your employees ready to go out and do the job. That's kind of the demand that exists today. How is that different than what it used to be when it was more like a lot of on-the-job training in that field, and particularly in the construction industry?
Yeah, I guess now the swing crew, swing crews has always been a part of our company. I guess since the 70s. But what we use swing crews for, we're kind of knocking out the peaks on projects. On large projects, you'll see a curve, manpower curve, and it'll jump up for, say, 3 or 4 months. They would go in and knock out the peaks because that demand was hard to find out there. So the problem now is we're having to build the job with those people. It's not just knocking out the peaks. So, the biggest difference is the workforce is not where our jobs are. So we have to take the workforce. So that's
do that.
The biggest.
And I guess
challenge.
when you have the, I guess as a company like yours and your job, you go to where the job is. It doesn't really give you a chance to build up over a long period of time this workforce that
it makes it very challenging because we've grown 10 to 15% the last 5 years, so it's been easier because as we've just been able to steadily increase our workforce and all the training that goes with it. So it's fine when that's the case, but when you're kind of up and down like the construction business generally is, it makes it very hard because when you lose people, you usually don't get them back. So.
We know there's a lot of, Amy, there's a lot of different areas out there that need some type of workforce. Mm-hmm. In the work with the Skills Foundation, what are you seeing are the highest demand jobs that are out there today in Mississippi?
So Mississippi has recently gone through a pretty in-depth process with the 4 workforce development areas. So the target has been named. We know what we need to go after. And now some of these, of course, will vary by region to region. Manufacturing skills, and that's one that ranked in all 4 workforce areas. So industrial maintenance, things like that, engineers, mechanical, electrical, IT, programmers, coders, healthcare, of course, nurses, lab techs, energy, which is what I'm a little more familiar with. We need folks to run those plants, and we need linemen to keep the lights on, and a pipeline of those folks. And then logistics. So like I said, the target has been identified. We just need to figure out how to get the message out and to link students or folks looking for a job with the opportunities that are there.
And I think one of the things that we need to think about, and this really is, I know something that y'all will probably be working on, is that a lot of these areas that she just mentioned, they're not just a specific job. It's a wide variety of jobs. I know for a fact we were having this discussion prior to the start of this session with Superintendent of Education that made the point, says when you think about healthcare, which was one of the areas that you mentioned, mm-hmm. is that you've got to have every type of skill across the spectrum that exists. You've got to have someone who's taking care of the facility. You've got to have someone who's cutting the grass. And you also have to have the neurosurgeon. All of that is such a big part of this that it really does mean we've got to develop a different type of approach, a different type of workforce skill set, and do that because these jobs exist. So when you think about that, when you think about all these various opportunities, how do we reach out? How do we let people in Mississippi know what these opportunities are and how they learn about this?
Well, I think it's simple. I just think we need to talk about it more. Mississippi's really good at that. We've got some very close-knit communities, some great networks. It seems like what we focus on gets done. The 3rd grade reading program was an example. I mean, things that we really hone in on seem to get done. I think repetition is critical. We reach people and have found some success through Get on the Grid. We reach them where they are, and that's on their phone. A lot of these kids, they're scrolling, they're seeing these ads on all these social media applications. So I think the more ways they get this message, the better, from more people. Here's a staggering statistic that I saw yesterday. Over 600,000 people in Mississippi with less than a college degree are not working. There's another 200,000 who are working that want a higher paying job. They don't know about some of these opportunities. So how do we move the needle in that space, even if we reach a fraction, 1 or 2%? the dividends would be huge.
Well, and I think your point is very well taken, that the dividends would be huge, and we're talking about the state as a whole and how we develop it. Now, Denny, you and I have had a couple of conversations about community development and how workforce plays into that. Being from a community like Kosciuszko, why is it so important that we focus on finding a way to do what Amy's talking about, increase the educational opportunities? Because really, that is at the base of building the community up and going forward. I know y'all have had a lot of stuff going on up that way. What are some things that are happening in that arena?
To me, it's the workforce development and rural economic development are kind of both in equal line on small towns these days, because I know like Kosciuszko is like a lot of other small towns. It just seems like it's slowly dying on the vine as you lose, M&F headquarters and all these industries. It's just, and the other ones don't come. That's just kind of what you're seeing. So I know in talking, sorry, I didn't want to get off on that, but maybe that's the next time session. Dr. Haffey is president of Holmes Community College. One of the things he told me was Holmes came in and bought the old Milwaukee tool building. They moved to Greenwood to their other location and turned it into a really nice training facility. And he said that, I believe it opened maybe July 16. He said they have partnered with 9 businesses or organizations in Kosciuszko and have trained almost 1,000 people in that time. So when you're talking about Kosciuszko, 7,000, 7,500 people, the whole county is probably 17,000, and they've trained in that short of a time 1,000. That's a big impact. So you're seeing a lot of good movement there. One of the things I'd like to see is maybe the smaller, that's the 9 bigger businesses or organizations in Kosciuszko, Attala County. So what can we do? And they can afford to put in a little bit. But what about the small guy that's doing a startup? I don't think the communication at their level may not be quite where it needs to be. So we could help with that some more.
And one of the things you just mentioned was that community college aspect, that what they're doing. Now, Edmund, I know for a fact, I've had a chance to, again, tour your facility, your training facility. You're closely tied with the community college. Talk a little bit about why that relationship is so important and how that can even grow in other parts of the state.
So at our Maritime Trades Academy, where we conduct our training for our apprentices, there's actually on the site a office of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. They are a critical partner in the training of our apprentices. So they actually have a campus actually on site. As our apprentices, the programs are anywhere from 2 to 4 years. So by the time a student has gone through those programs, they're very close to getting their associate's degree. So we like for them, if they so choose, to finish that associate's degree. But the beauty of that one is they also, since they're at the community college and have received many of their credits, they can get their associate's degree. Gulf Coast Community College also has a program with Mississippi State, so if they're interested in pursuing their engineering degree, they can do it. And there are also programs with University of Southern Mississippi that allows them to continue their education, and they don't have to leave our campus. The other one is, Mississippi Gulf Coast is a strong partner, but we work with all of the community colleges around the state. When you're looking at hiring thousands of individuals, you have to cast that net a little bit wider. So the community college system is extremely important to Ingalls Shipbuilding and their workforce development strategies. One of the more important items is we meet with the community colleges on their curriculum to make sure that as they're teaching the students welding, when they finish that welding program, they can come to Ingalls and will meet our minimum requirements from a testing standpoint. So we travel around the state meeting with all the community colleges, working with them, whether it's on how they set up equipment, what's in the curriculum. But when the students finish the program, we want them to get a job. We'd love for them to get the job at Ingalls, no offense to anyone, but we would love for them to come to work. but it's important to help them with the curriculum so when they finish the program, they can make a smooth transition. So we really work with all the community colleges around the state of Mississippi.
And Amy, I guess, and this is, in Northeast Mississippi, there's also a strong workforce development within the community college. Is TVA, their relationship, and you see other companies, again, is that just another way of driving home and communicating to students what's out there and how they can be aware of?
It is. I mean, we don't have to look far. I think there are programs in Mississippi that rival anything going on anywhere in the country. And what I see in North Mississippi, these programs that are really churning out these ready-to-work folks in big numbers, the key ingredient is a strong public-private partnership. We've got some examples. I'll just throw a few out. Toyota has a great program, Work to Learn, where these students are in the classroom 2 days a week at ICC. They're on the floor 3 days a week. When they're done, they have an associate's degree. They're going to school. They're making a paycheck. They are getting real-world experience. And when they're done, I mean, a lot of these folks are going straight into the Toyota pipeline or the supplier pipeline. We have the Certified Furniture Academy, same type idea. When they go through this program, they come out with 2 national certifications, and then they're guaranteed an interview with a local furniture manufacturer. EMCC, the program that I'm a little more personally familiar with, their utility line worker program, we have had some success with, and I think their president's hiding over there. Hey, Tom. But these folks are going through this program, 22-hour program, and then they're getting straight into the pipeline to go to work for their local power company, a co-op, Entergy, TVA, Mississippi Power, these great jobs, and they're ready to go. In fact, 3 of his students recently got back from Puerto Rico. They were sent down there to help with the storm restoration efforts. So, I mean, they're linemen ready. So, again, I think there are so many good things we can replicate. There are programs that are working. We have got to figure out how to link people with those programs.
And I think that's, again, that comes back to that coordination at every level, from K-12 to community college to IHL and then lifelong learning. You know, Denny, you talked a little bit about that. You got to constantly train. Why is that so important? I mean, things change, technology changes. It's just a matter of making sure you're ready to go. But I mean, obviously having a focus of always giving your employees a chance to learn more has to be part of the equation, correct?
Oh, I agree. You know, for one, you're showing them a career path. Kind of, I know you talked a little bit about career path. Like the MCF is a big part of the construction in Mississippi, and they provide that, so you can kind of show them. And again, we do the levels, so as they're going through the apprenticeship levels, they're seeing where they can move to, and at what point they can become a foreman and run their own crew and move on to a. I mean, so all that's there, and they're all wanting to learn and do better. So, and I think it really helps with the retention. The more we train, the more. I mean, I think we've got about 60 employees that have been with Ivy's for over 30 years right now. So it's good help.
Well, we do have a couple of mics. We'll take questions as long as they're easy. But if anybody does have a question, if you come on, step up to the mic, we'll ask. If not, I've got a couple of other things I want to wrap up with before we do that. But I did want to at least offer, because we appreciate y'all taking the time to come listen to this, because what we do know is there are a lot of things that are happening. To Amy's point, there are programs across this state that rival anything you'll find anywhere else. It's that coordinating effort of doing that making sure that we're talking about it. So again, this panel was titled, workforce training that works. I think we've heard a lot about that. And I think that's one of the things that as we think about going forward, we still have things that we have to do. So I'm going to give you all a really easy, since nobody's stepping up to the mic, I'm going to give you all a really easy question. What is the next step that we need to take as a state? And each of you get to answer this question. What is the next step we need to take that will begin to address this skilled labor shortage and how can MEC, this group of business leaders that are here today, and all of the connections we have across the state, be part of that process going forward. And we'll start with Edmund, and we'll come down and let Amy put a cap on it here for us. So,
You said easy.
easy question.
You said easy. And then you started with me. So I think the most important thing we can do in the state of Mississippi is focus on education. That one item will make the biggest difference in the success of the state of Mississippi. It's investing in the education and make it rival anywhere else in the country. So when you mention the state of Mississippi, you say that it's number one from an educational standpoint. I was actually born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi, graduated from Jackson Public Schools, went to college in Mississippi, left immediately after college for an opportunity. My kids spent time in several other states. They started here in 6th and 8th grade, and I will tell you there was a difference in the educational system. I think my kids grew up in a fantastic school district. We were in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. It is a wonderful school district. But if I compare the education when they got to 6th grade and 8th grade to where we were before, there was a difference. And so if we want to say what is going to make a difference in the state of Mississippi, I truly believe it is in the education system. And when I say education, I mean from pre-K throughout. That will make a difference. And if we make that difference, companies like Ingalls and all the rest of the companies around the state will have the workforce that we need to be successful in the future.
I want to say I agree with that. I do think there are a lot of good programs out there involved with, workforce, the craft side especially, but communication. I know MEC's endeavor is one of the big parts of that is to try to communicate all the programs that are out there and bring them together. So I think that is a big piece of it too. But it is all about education.
Retweet. Again, I'm going to plug the Skills Foundation just because I think we are getting so much right. There are so many programs in place. We need somebody housing that and getting the word out. Get on the Grid, Mississippi Energy Institute, which is really how the Skills Foundation came to be. They had so much success with Get on the Grid in the energy sector. And they said, hey, let's open this up to these other sectors. Last year, in a little less than a year, we reached almost 170,000 people with Get on the Grid. They got on there, they looked at these skills jobs, they surfed around. We were able to connect 4,000 people directly with training at the community colleges. I mean, that's moving the needle. Those are the kind of things we need to do. So I think, again, the more we talk about it, at MEC, at MMA, at these other organizations, I think it's going to gain some steam and that the Skills Foundation can really lean in and have an impact.
Well, and I think that's what I'm excited about, the opportunities. I mentioned this earlier. Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Well, you go ahead and finish now.
No, I was just going to say coordination is a big part of that, but I'll let you ask the question and then we'll.
Okay. I think it's about 3 years ago, Delta State University suspended their out-of-state tuition fee, just the out-of-state portion. And to the best of my knowledge, that has been good for them. I've been hearing, that Ole Miss, their freshman enrollment has been creeping up to where now it's slightly above 50% of their freshman enrollment are out-of-state students. It would seem to me like that, if a person comes to Mississippi for an education and then winds up staying here and is a productive citizen in the state and paying state income taxes and so forth, that over the long run would benefit Mississippi. So I'm wondering if anybody's keeping up with any statistics about how many people that actually come here as out-of-state college students once they get their education, actually stay in Mississippi for a number of years? And would it be to our advantage for other institutions of higher learning to consider the suspension of their out-of-state tuition or a reduction in it?
Well, I actually don't know the numbers, but I can answer the question is yes, that is fact. The NSPARC up at Mississippi State actually tracks the number of students as they come into our university system. It's called the longitudinal data system. I probably said that wrong, but actually it's something that they do. They do track those IHL students. I don't have the numbers to be able to tell you exactly how many stay here, but on average, about 60 to 65% of our graduates stay in the state of Mississippi, which is about the national average. So the question is how many of those are Mississippians, how many of those are people who've come to Mississippi and decided to stay. I don't know the answer, but I do know it's somewhere in that 60 to 65 range. I think to your point, yes, if we can attract students here to go to school, if we can then allow them to have the opportunity to get the education, figure out what it is they need to do while they're here, partner with our businesses to move into those jobs, we have an opportunity of keeping those. I know that we talked about auto manufacturing. I see Steve sitting here on first row. He and I have had conversations about the needs for engineers at Nissan. Those are the people that we can get here, get them trained, and get them into the jobs. That's where we stand the biggest chance of really seeing the advantage of it as we go forward. So I think that's one of the things that as we talk about this workforce, how do we then take the capabilities of our educational system, getting back to what Edmund said, number one, it has to be a lifelong learning from pre-K all the way up. But we have to take advantage of the fact that our universities are economic drivers in this state, not just in producing graduates, but they're economic drivers in research, in providing the resources that are necessary for our businesses. And I think that's another, in many ways, untapped opportunity for us to really focus on how we can really build a stronger relationship. We're talking about today a lot of things in the skills area. The community colleges are really focusing there. I think we have also an equal opportunity with our universities to kind of tap into some of those things, because I think everybody, and y'all tell me if I've got this wrong, these aren't jobs for your folks at Ingalls. These are careers, right?
That's our focus. We want it to be a career.
It means that they start here, but they get a chance to continue to get education up the ladder. Why is that so important? I mean, it comes back to retention, other things?
Yes.
So,
One of the best examples that we have is the Apprentice of the Year in one of the trades is now my peer, and he is the Vice President of Operations for our organization. He started off as an apprentice. And so when you talk about the apprentice training and what it gives individuals, several years down the road, the guy is running our operations organization that has 7,000 of our employees. That's a career.
before we wrap up, I want to give, I've asked all the questions. I want to give you all an opportunity. You can either ask me a question or either have kind of closing comments as we get ready to wrap up. But is there anything that I missed, anything that you want to add to talk about that we need to be doing differently? Or then I'll turn that around. Is there anything you need to ask us at MEC of where we stand and what we need to be doing? Did I stump you?
Yeah.
You're doing everything right, Scott.
I'm doing everything right? Okay, I'll take that. No, I'll take that. In all seriousness, I do want to close by just saying a couple of quick things. First of all, let's give these guys a hand real quick. Everyone in here is here because they care about this issue. Many of y'all are on the front lines, just like these guys are, about trying to make sure we've got the type of workforce we need in Mississippi. If any of y'all had to put up with my hour-long tour that I did over the past few months, which I appreciate y'all coming to, you heard me say this. We have to think differently, because that's how we will figure out how to get this done. We can't be something we're not. We have to figure out what our strengths are, and we have to play to the strengths. Throughout the tour, I used the example that was given. It goes all the way back to the biblical story of David and Goliath. And Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and Slaying Giants. And he talks about what happened and how the underdog won. He doesn't question the fact that David's faith was a big part of that process. But what happened was David knew that if he tried to fight Goliath the way it's always been done, there's no way he wins. And when Saul put the armor on and he took it off, and everybody was surprised, saying, "What are you doing?" He said, "Look, if I get in basically his thought process was simply this. If I get in hand-to-hand combat with this guy, I'm going to lose. But what do I have? I have youth, I have speed, and I have skill." He positioned himself to take the shot. He took the giant down. We can't continue to try to fight things the traditional way. When it comes to workforce, we've got to be thinking outside the box. We've got to be creating partnerships like what's happening with Ivy and Holmes. We've got to be thinking about how do we do these things. So as we go forward, let's think about as a state, what are our strengths? And then let's play to the strengths. MEC is here to help that happen. I'm excited about the opportunity that exists today. The theme of today's meeting is enhancing our opportunities. It's focusing on the good things that are happening, the workforce programs that are working, the opportunities that exist, and tapping into the potential of all of these resources that we have. And I think if we do it together, if we create a coordinated effort, we can continue to see further development of these programs, like you said, that will rival anywhere in the country, because we have the ability to do that in Mississippi. Y'all, as our business community, our business leaders, are the ones that will drive.
We talked about a key issue, workforce. How do we make a difference? How do we change the paradigm going forward to focus on giving those that are skilled craftsmen, master craftsmen, the same type of value in today's economy as the master's degree recipient? Both are vitally important, and we have to be thinking at it from that perspective.